If you have ever driven a vintage Volkswagen at night, well, then you know how dim the headlights can be. Come with me as I tell you about my new LED headlight upgrade. Welcome back, everyone, to episode 10, the final episode of season 5 for Wilson, the VW Bus podcast. I'm your host, Joe, and Wilson is, of course, my 1967 VW split-window homebrew camper bus. In today's episode, I want to tell you about my electrical upgrades and my new headlight project. Over this past winter, I upgraded Wilson's aging battery with a brand new yellow top Optima battery, which wasn't cheap, but I thought it was the best option for a camper bus, and Wilson was worth the investment. The D35 Optima yellow top deep cycle and high performance AGM battery that I purchased has 620 cold cranking amps, so I'm anticipating that we won't have any starting issues and lots of power for camping and any accessories that we might need to use. Now, I do have 2 solar panels. One small book-sized unit that I bring with me with Wilson to charge up my phone, iPad, and a portable power pack with a flashlight. And then I also have a full-size solar panel that I could mount to the top of Wilson's luggage rack if I ever decided that I need some serious power. For now, that full-size panel is just stored in the garage. The new battery, however, was the first step in my plan to upgrade and convert Wilson's headlights to LEDs. Why upgrade, you ask? Well, if you've never driven an old vintage Volkswagen at night, then you probably have never experienced how poor the old incandescent sealed beam headlight bulbs are. I not only could not adequately see the road when driving at night, but I felt like other drivers couldn't see me either. My plan was to upgrade the existing headlights to LEDs, but there didn't seem to be a lot of options available for a 7-inch round headlight. I found a few companies who made VW-specific LED replacement bulbs, but they were all out of stock, or the bulb housing itself looked too modern for my bus, for my liking. So I also found one aftermarket company, I believe it was Holly, that made a 7-inch round LED bulb, but they were very expensive, almost $500 for a pair. So I continued to research and scour the internet until I ran across an article on a forum from a gentleman who upgraded his headlights with a factory Toyota kit that was made available for upgrading the older Toyota Land Cruisers. This factory upgrade kit came with a 7-inch glass bulb housing and a halogen bulb for each headlight, the wiring harness with plug-and-play fuses, relays, wiring, dielectric grease, and a big bunch of zip ties. This entire kit, purchased from Toyota, between $21 to $35 for everything, depending on your closest dealer. And although the kit came with halogen bulbs, they could easily be replaced with an H4 LED equivalent bulb. Now, if I were going to use the supplied halogen bulbs, I would have used the Toyota wiring harness and the relays. It literally just plugs into the stock light harness for a very simple install. But another reason for my upgrade was the fact that I was trying to save my electrical system from the amperage draw of the sealed beam headlights. The sealed beam headlights draw approximately 5 amps apiece, and the halogen bulbs would have been about the same, if not worse. The LED bulbs, however, would only be about a 1 to 2 amp draw on the electrical system for each bulb. And I felt that that would be better off not only for my new battery, but for my aging wiring as well in the bus. So I called the local Toyota dealership and asked him if he had part number 81110-60P70. And the gentleman on the phone said he didn't, but he could have it the next morning. The next morning, I arrived at the Toyota dealership, and the part service manager and I dug through the box in amazement at the quality of this kit, especially for the price. Now, all I had to do was purchase some LED H4 bulbs, which I found on Amazon for about $30 for the pair, and once those bulbs arrived, I couldn't wait to get started on the upgrade. I first took some measurements of the stock light pattern by shining the headlights on the garage door and marking the light with painter's tape on the back of the door. I then removed the driver's side headlamp assembly and brought it over to my workbench to take everything apart and inspect it. The new bulb housing was very similar to the old stock sealed beam, but the only noticeable difference being that the new headlight had a flat face compared to the stock sealed beam, which was more rounded on the front. I removed the halogen bulb from the headlight housing by turning the small ring and replaced the bulb with a new LED H4 bulb, which fit perfectly. The new LED bulb did not hit the reflector inside and seemed to line up exactly where the old bulb was. I did notice that the rubber gasket that went over the back of the bulb was just a little too tight, about 2 millimeters too snug. So I took my Dremel and a sanding bit and opened up the rubber gasket just a little. After the gasket fit snugly on the back of the bulb, I took the bulb assembly and placed it in the Volkswagen headlight bucket. That's when the next issue became apparent, because when I tried to put it on the headlight retaining ring, I noticed that the 3 tabs on the back of the new housing were just a little too big for the slots on the ring that holds the headlight bucket to the assembly. But after making a mark with a pen and using the Dremel once more, the ring and the new LED bulb assembly fit just fine. I was feeling so confident that this project was going to be done in one afternoon, so I went back to the front of the bus to install the headlight, and unfortunately the universe had different plans for us, because as soon as I went to plug in the new headlight back on the bus, the glass lens cover slid out from the assembly and hit the towel bar and then hit the bumper and cracked into 5 pieces on the floor. I was upset to say the least, and these lens covers were kind of unique. I haven't seen anyone's exactly like them anywhere else before on any bus. I think they may have been a vintage Italian aftermarket or reproduction part from years past, because I have not been able to find them in any catalog or parts supplier for my VW bus. Well, now that the lens cover was off, I could take a better look at how everything else was coming together, and it was at this time I noticed that the parking lamp bulb was just touching the new headlight housing, and that one of the headlight adjustment screws was severely bent. Well, that wasn't good. So I decided to see if I could upgrade or swap out those 5007 bulbs for something else. I ended up going with an LED replacement bulb from the local auto parts store, which had a small plastic cover over the top of the LEDs which protected them. I was able to cut that plastic cover and give me the clearance that I needed, but it also matched the color temperature of the parking lights to the new headlights. I went to one of my parts suppliers and ordered a new set of fluted headlight lenses, the covers, because now I needed a set of them. I couldn't just buy the one. And I got something that closely resembled my old ones, but it's not the same. I got new gaskets and adjustment screws just in case. They should have arrived in about 2 to 3 days, and then I could get back to work and finish this whole little project up. But after a few days, I noticed that my order had not even been fulfilled yet. So I patiently waited and watched the tracking information, which was when I started to get concerned. The shipment, I thought, would have come from California, shipped to New Jersey, but I saw online that it was now coming from Canada, and after a few days, it just stopped updating the tracking data completely when my box reached Memphis, Tennessee. So I first called FedEx, and they told me that my part was being held up with a customs issue, which confused me because I didn't know why my parts were coming from Canada when I ordered them from California. So then I called the company, and they told me that it was in an FDA hold, and that made me even more confused. Anyway, I won't mention the company, but 2.5 weeks later, I finally received all of my parts, and it was during the reassembly process that I realized why my lens fell out in the first place. You see, there are 7 spring clips in each headlamp assembly that hold everything together. 4 clips that hold the bulb to the bucket, and 3 clips that hold the bucket and glass lens cover to the chrome outer headlight ring. For whatever reason, I had installed all of my driver's side outer ring clips, those 3 clips, onto the passenger side headlamp, and there was nothing holding the driver's side glass in. That's why it fell out. All of this was completely my fault from probably 5 years ago. Who knows, I was probably in a rush to take Wilson out for the first test drive. Anyway, at this time I made sure to put everything back the way it was supposed to be when reassembling the headlights on my workbench, and then I installed both new headlamps into the bus. The new white lights are much cleaner and brighter than the old incandescent seal beams, and the light pattern is nearly the same, so I don't have to worry about blinding any oncoming drivers. In total, I spent $35 for the Toyota headlamp kit, $30 for LED H4 bulbs, and an additional $20 for LED parking lamp bulbs, bringing the total for this project to $85 for both new LED headlights. I'm not going to include the new glass lenses because that was totally my fault. This solution was by far the most affordable LED headlight upgrade that I could find, which still maintained a very stock appearance, and if I ever wanted to revert back to the old headlamps, I didn't make any major changes to the stock components so that they could always be put back together if I ever wanted to. Not that I would ever want to go back, because these headlights are far superior to the old sealed beams. I also made a YouTube video of this project, so if you want to see how this came out, or to get links for the parts, just head over to my YouTube channel at Wilson the VW Bus. Spoiler alert, I don't show the glass breaking because I cursed like a sailor and I couldn't have that on YouTube. Well, that's going to wrap up the 5th season of Wilson the VW Bus podcast. We've covered a lot of our Volkswagen adventures together this year, from my retirement to a new spice rack for Wilson's cargo door, a drink holder for the dash, new suspension adjustments, my alternator fully fiasco, Wilson's new Middle-earth interior decor, and much more. Hopefully, you'll follow me on social media and subscribe, and you don't want to miss out on what's to come next. I really hope to see some of you at the shows and events this season, and maybe you'll get your hands on some of that Wilson merch. Again, I want to thank you all for joining me on this journey. Be good to one another, and safe travels.